here's the question to start the day. What qualities make a successful professional? And it doesn't matter what line of work you're in. Grab the sticky notes that are on your table and take 1, 2, or 3 of them and write down one per sticky note. Write down a quality that you feel is most important. It could be hard work, dedication, empathy, trust, honesty, transparency. Do you actively seek to build your skills in the workplace? Yes? Who does that? Or are you just like, yeah, I know everything already. I'm not going to learn anything else. Yeah. All right. So you actively work on that, right? Here's the bad news about IQ. What did the experts say? When does your IQ get formed? Anybody know the answer to that? Childhood, right? I hate to break it to you, but we're all old. I don't think any of us can increase our IQ at this point in life. By the way, the highest IQ in the world today is a teenager in India, a young female chess master. Here's the bad news. Yes, you can get better with your TQ, although if you read a guy like Malcolm Gladwell, he would tell you it takes 10,000 hours to become a true expert at something. If anybody are familiar with the writings, Outliers is the name of one of his books. So you all are saying EQ is most important. And yet here's the rub. How often do you think about, am I trustworthy? Do I need to work on that? Do I come across as empathetic? Or do I just think I come across as empathetic? Am I kind? Am I passionate? I'm looking at all the ones I see on here. Compassion's on here multiple times. Am I collaborative? How often are you developing those skills? You're saying this is important to your job, to being an effective professional. And no matter what field, it's always like this. The only time it's ever not like this, and it's mostly TQ, and I've done this particular activity probably close to 100 times. Any guesses on which group I've spoken to where there was more TQ? Exactly. It was engineers, software engineers. Wow, you got to know how to code. So EQ, so we walk through life and the data is so clear, and you know this, you observe this, you see this. The most effective professionals and leaders, we could even extend to leaders, are those who, yes, have high IQ, but here's the good news. You all have it. You wouldn't be sitting in this room if you didn't. That's just the cost to entry. It's emotional intelligence. Can you relate to people? Can you connect with people? And it's not about being an introvert or an extrovert, by the way, or an ambivert. Can you genuinely connect with humans? And do you know how to work collaboratively with them in a manner that allows you both to move forward and your organization to move forward? And the rest of our time here, we're going to get into that. And again, the data is clear. I like this little cool slide. Let's look at it again because it's kind of fun. IQ gets you hired, but EQ gets you promoted. And boy, have I seen this in life. IQ and TQ may get you an initial promotion, but you start to get into middle management, you got to have EQ to move forward. I've been asked to make promotion decisions for 25 to 30 years. And boy, do I look for emotional intelligence. Do I trust this human that's going to be promoted to take on additional responsibility? I work with leaders across the Kansas City area. People who are rising up now, no, society's like, we don't want any more brilliant jerks. We're not going to have it. And so who's rising up now? It's these people. Got to be smart, but you got to have both today. That cuts across nonprofit, academia, healthcare, it doesn't matter. Washington Post, it's the sole determinant of professional success that we can actually improve. EQ I can get better at, even at my age. At any age, we can get better at EQ. We can decide, I'm going to try to be more empathetic, passionate, trustworthy, caring. All the things you said really, really matter for your jobs. Well, how do we get there? This is right out of Emotional Intelligence 2.0. There's 4 main components. All right. Self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. Self-awareness and self-management. Do I understand my own emotions? How do I come across to others? Can I regulate when necessary? I get cut off on the freeway. What do I do? Et cetera, et cetera. I'm at high V. Somebody cuts in front of me there. Am I patient? I don't know. The 49ers are losing to the Chiefs again in the Super Bowl. Do I throw things at the television in front of my adult son and curse, or can I keep it together? I'm a really big 49er fan. That was hard. It's self-awareness. You're recognizing the feeling as it happens. And that's the core. Because if we can't recognize these feelings, then we're at their mercy. It's okay to have emotion. What's not always okay is to let the emotion dictate what we're about to do. Do we agree with that? we're going to feel something. We're all humans, but a lack of self-awareness makes it impossible to move forward. Job number one is to be self-aware. Here's the bad news. Only about 36% of society is good at this. How many of you have people in your life who aren't very self-aware? They have blind spots, if you will. And maybe they're not blind spots. They know they're a jerk and they just carry on as is. So when you think of professionals, what should self-awareness look like? Just shout it out. How do you get better at your self-awareness? What's that?
Call them on it.
Call them on it.
Something like
Yeah.
great.
Ooh, I do not want to upset you ever.
Impact on others.
Yeah, recognize your impact on others. And people who are good at self-awareness and self-management, they will watch other humans and how they react to them. When I'm interacting, and 30% of my workforce where I work is people in their 20s. Occasionally, just because of my title or because of my age, it's possible that if I'm interacting with someone right out of college, they may feel nervous. So I will look for how they react around me. And if I see watchy skin or a stuttering voice, then I'm going to tell a dad joke, literally, or do something to relax the situation. You understand that? Because I'm not perfect and I never want to intimidate or be a jerk or do something that creates an emotional environment where people cannot thrive and be their best. Any other advice for self-awareness? How you all get better at it? Ask for feedback. I love that you're proactive in doing that because not everybody does that. But the important thing is just to try to be a little more self-aware and self-manage a little bit differently every day. Out of the book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, are recommendations for each of these 4 categories. Let's talk about self-management, because it's one thing to know, yeah, if the 49ers are losing, I'm going to get heated. But it's another thing to then know, okay, how do I fix that? Self-management. Can we regulate negative emotions or emotions that are counterproductive or unhealthy? Now, again, there are plenty of emotions that are positive: love, hope, empathy, kindness, care. These are all emotions that we should allow to flourish throughout the day. Life's too short. Every second counts. You all know that better than I do. And I hope we allow these positive emotions to flow through us more often than not. And I am a firm believer, and no one can convince me otherwise, that I am in charge of my happiness. I'm not going to allow anybody in my world to dictate how I feel, because I can control this right here, and I can control this up here. And I can choose to be who I want to be around, to get energy from, or not be around. Can't always do that as a child because you're born in the home you're born in. But as an adult, I can make the decisions on where I can get my energy. And you can't control that initial feeling, but you do get to control what you feel afterwards. Let's just keep it real. You feel anger or something. How do you calm yourself down? Breathe. Breathe is a big one. It's an important one. Probably the same thing. Some of you are working with stroke victims. You tell them to breathe. What else? Take a break. Yeah, walk away. Thank you for that. That's one of my techniques. Didn't work during the Super Bowl, but it is one of my, I skipped Usher at halftime because I was so nervous. I went for a walk around the block. You know, rely on your skills. Anything else? Self-management? Well, let's look at several of them from the book. One of them I like is just laugh and smile more. We get to decide, again, how we feel, how we operate. There was a big study that Penn State did not that long ago about smiling in the workplace. It's a fascinating study. And one of the findings made me sad a little bit. And it was 1 out of 10 U.S. workers, and it cut across a variety of professions, smile less than 3 times per day. 10%. That made me sad. It did. You know, there are people who wrap through life with a perpetual crankiness to them, if you will, and which is not good for stress. It's not good for the heart, emotional or physical health. I find that when I just don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff, it's easier to self-manage. But you can see some of these. Sleep is really important. Clean up your sleep hygiene. I live next door to a therapist, but he talks to me not as a therapist, although I'm not opposed to doing that if I ever needed it, but just the importance of sleep. And he counsels some of his patients who never sleep that they just need to get their rest and decompress, which is interesting. Learn a lesson from everyone you encounter. I'm very observant of how one of my actions, again, made someone react, and then I make a mental note. Okay, do more of that. They're happy when you do this, or do less of this. They're not happy or productive when you do that. The pausing, the breathing is super important. One of my very best friends is a physician. I'm not going to give his name because he'd smack me upside the head for telling you this story that I'm about to tell you. We've all had physicals. And you know how the doctors will put the stethoscope on you, probably on your back, and tell you to breathe, and they're listening for something. Who knows what they're listening for? Well, check this out. My physician friend said this is a doctor hack. If he sees that you're nervous, he will pretend to be listening for something and just tell you to take deep breaths because he wants you to calm down. He says, I'm just going to pretend to listen for something. Breathe. When he sees that a patient is nervous to be around doctors, which happens all the time, he just wants to get them to breathe because he knows it'll get them to calm down. All right, my father passed away about 18 months ago. He was a great man, humble, salt of the earth human, blue collar, sheet metal, could build a house from the ground up using only his hands. But he taught me a lot of valuable lessons in life. He was the proverbial, didn't speak much, but when he did, it was very profound. And many of my life lessons that I've learned come from my dad. And I'll talk about this one in a moment, but a couple others, he would say, Mike, remember, it always takes two idiots to have a fight. And that's true. I never want to be the second idiot. And he was a black belt in karate. My dad could take anybody out, but he was a true discipline of martial arts and never started a fight. But you never wanted to pick on my dad. But another thing he taught me growing up was this one. And all the way up until he died, he would tell me this, Mike, remember, you're in charge of your happiness. Don't give anybody the power to dictate how you feel. One of the life-changing books I read 20 years ago is a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Anybody ever heard of that book? It was about how this gentleman survived the Holocaust and being in a concentration camp through the power of his mind and positive thinking and not allowing his captors to dictate how he felt inside. It's kind of the opposite of Stockholm Syndrome. And I take great joy in knowing that when I'm right, I can dictate my work week. I can dictate my day. I can dictate every hour, every minute, every second, right? And I can choose, like I said, who to get energy from. You can choose your friends. You can choose your jobs. You can choose the work professionals you work with. You can't choose your family, but you can choose who to get your energy from. And I 1,000% am in charge of my happiness, and I never want to give that power to anyone else to dictate my happiness. Curse you, Patrick Mahomes. If you're socially aware, meaning, hey, I can feel the vibe we're giving off, and I know how to react. By the way, it's not always going overboard to try to help someone. Sometimes it's leaving them alone. You got to know when they want you to interact with them and when they don't. But they're more influential. They're more respected. They get more promotions. They're better listeners. You're a better listener if you're socially aware. By the way, even today, or especially today, people prefer those who listen over those who talk. And some of you know this all too well. The ideal ratio, how many of you in this room have direct reports? Raise your hands. Yeah. Those who talk 40% of the time to their direct reports or less are viewed more favorably across every leadership category. Well, ask yourself how you interact with your direct reports. Are you talking most of the time, or do you allow them to talk most of the time? Listening is a lost art for some, not all. Many of you in this room are great listeners. You have to be as a part of your job. Socially aware then. I love this quote from Stephen R. Covey, one of the OGs for professional development, leadership development. Wrote a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, if anybody you remember that book. But I love his quote about listening because that is the essence of social awareness. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to respond. And boy, do I see this. Watch two people talk about their forthcoming holidays. They'll one-up each other. Oh, you're going to Maui? That's really cool and all. I hear the beaches are like, let me tell you about Australia. We're going to Australia. It's like Maui on steroids, right? And watch people talk about their health conditions. It's like a contest. Oh, you hurt your ankle? Let me tell you about my calf. I tore my calf muscle. It's awful. I can't run. I can't do anything. Why do we do this as humans? We one up. We one up. So the message here about being socially aware is ask, even people who are happy, how you doing? How you really doing? And we may not always be able to help, but maybe we can direct that person to help if we're sensing something. I did that with a colleague yesterday who seemed happy, and she broke down a little bit and said, I am going through some things, and thank you for asking, because no one ever asks her because she walks around looking perpetually happy, right? We never know. And those who are socially aware, yes, we'll people who are obviously distressed in some sort, we talk to, but we talk to everyone. And we want a forum where everybody is happy and thriving. And you never know what kind of demons people are dealing with. And hopefully, and I'm confident this room of all rooms would and does take time to reach out to others, but it's a reminder. All right. What are some of the things then that we can do besides asking, hey, how are you, to be more socially aware? So now we're looking at people in front of us. Thoughts? Yeah, maybe don't hesitate to pull someone aside, go for a walk. Spring has sprung. Beautiful day today. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah. Be in their space. Thank you. Others? What is it? Be personal. Yeah. Do we always have to talk about work? No. Nor should we. Make for a boring day and week. And then really, really, really listen to their tone and watch their body language. Yes? Like really watch, and their actions, to pick up on certain signals. I like clear the clutter as well between you and that individual, which is why we should talk personal things. Sometimes work can be clutter. Clear the clutter, and then to your point, step into their shoes, step into their space. These are just two I highlighted. They're all good, but really be observant at the person's body language, tone, and their actions as well. All right, last one, relationship management. Maybe we can see that someone is either happy or positive or distressed or down in the dumps or nervous. How do we interact with them and then build that relationship? And those that do this tend to be more successful, the relationships. Many of you have probably heard the expression, your network is your net worth. And I'm not just talking about money. I am grateful for the people I have in my life that fill my cup. My network, if you will, my friend network, whatever you want to call it. But those who are gifted in relationship management, regardless, again, of the introvert extrovert thing, they tend to have more opportunities to choose from. They tend to be more influential, more inspiring, and most businesses and successful businesses and client partnerships, a lot of times they're built on these very strong, firm individual relationships. Number one, get rid of your stupid electronics, magic rectangles. We have so many magic rectangles in our lives. Some of you have them on your wrists right now. They come in the form of this thing right here, which dominates our lives. You have tablets. We have laptops, on and on and on and on and on. This is not an anti-tech presentation, but how often does tech get in the way of a human-to-human connection? Do you ever see that? And it's not about a different generation. My Gen Z 24-year-old daughter leads the charge in family gatherings to get everybody to put their tech away. Put your tech away, your magic rectangles away. Mirror, body language, eye contact. I am focused on you. Paraphrase what they just said to you. So you have pain in your fingers. Tell me more about that. Paraphrase, and always ask open-ended questions. When you go home tonight, for those of you that have a significant other, instead of asking your significant other, did you have a good day? You're going to go, yes, okay, good. I'm going to go watch some Black Mirror episodes now, thanks. Try this instead. Hi, honey, tell me about your day. And then just wait. That's a good open-ended question. Do that with the patients that you work with. Do that with each other. Remember, we prefer people who listen. I hope that as you go forward, when you look at this list here, that people, if I pull them aside in your world, that they would use the positive descriptors, adjectives in here to describe you. What would they say? Would they say you're a servant leader? Would they say that you're poised? Would they say that you're empathetic? Or would they say you're defensive? Would they say that you're intense? Would they say that you're overly emotional? And we know where we want to align here, but how do we do that? Yes, let's do all the things we talked about here today to keep ourselves in check and look out for others. Best way I monitor my emotional intelligence, it sounds simplistic, and I suppose it is a little bit. I ask myself 2 questions every week, usually in the car on my commute. And these are the 2 questions. And the first one's easy to answer. This is an easy question to answer for most of us. How do I want to be perceived? And I can answer this. I want my wife to know that she's more important to me than I am to myself. I want my children to know that I would jump in front of a train for them. Their happiness is more important than mine. I want my direct reports to know I'll do everything I can to help them grow, progress, achieve their professional and personal goals. I can answer that question. The second one, though, is tough. It's tough, and we have to be honest with ourselves and try to get a little bit better every day. And it's this: am I acting in a manner that allows me to be seen the way I want to be seen? And sometimes we don't like the answer to that question, because honesty and trust and connection is not just an automatic for a lot of people. It has to be earned. And the way we earn that is through emotional intelligence. And when we have that, when we have these wonderful attributes that are falling off, but kindness and compassion and trust, first and foremost, our life moves forward in a better manner. Our cup is full. We are happy. We're fulfilled. And beyond that, guess what? The people around us are happy to be around us, happy to work with us, happy to give us opportunity. And if that's too squishy for you, people with high emotional intelligence make about $30K more a year than people with low intelligence. Travis Bradberry, the author of EQ 2.0, spent his whole life studying this stuff. 58% of job performance comes from emotional intelligence. 90% of top performers in 2024 in organizations have high EQ. Pretty important stuff. You want to get better at it? Read books about conversations. Radical Candor is a great, more current read. Kim Scott. But check your ego at the door as well. It has to start with that, right? Ask for honest feedback from others around you. And then don't hesitate to gravitate to people who are really good at this and learn from them and ask them how they've gotten where they are. And with that, thank you for all you do. What you do is very, very important in society.